So we're close, guys. God, this is the part where I feel really, really tense. Be like, oh God, I'm coming back to this prison again. Because it was a prison to be like, to be fair, I'm coming back again to this place.
Dr. Augustine is a Nigerian doctor who came to the UK 2 years ago. His recruitment by a British company called NES Healthcare meant working extremely long hours in a private hospital, with potential consequences, he says, for patients' health. Today, he's taken me back to that hospital in the UK that he says almost broke him.
It's my room over there, the 4th floor. Up there. Yeah, you can see the windows open. So there's a doctor up there, and right now doing the same job I was doing. I still feel anxious because, you know, I can't explain what it means, like just being confined to this place for 7 days, 24/7. Every day I work in this hospital, I always thought that something could go wrong.
Augustine is one of 9,500 Nigerian doctors licensed to work in the UK. Recruitment from abroad has never been higher, with 40% of doctors trained overseas.
I would wake up at 6:30, be on the ward at 7, and it was an 80-bedded hospital. So I was looking after all of the patients on the ward, outpatient setting, the CT and X-ray, and I'll be working from 7 up until 11.
At night?
Yeah, at night. And I would think that I'm meant to go to bed, you know, just get some rest. But then when you go to bed, you get a call, all patients complain about this, and your sleep is ruined, so I'm not able to sleep again up until 7 again. And the cycle continues for 1 week.
But how do some of these doctors get here? Newsnight has been investigating the story for months. We've discovered a scandal about large-scale recruitment and exploitation of foreign doctors in the UK that reaches as high as the British government. Nigeria's economic hub, Lagos, is a mix of oil-driven wealth and life-shortening poverty. Most here don't live beyond 54. Just 5 miles from the centre, Makoko, a floating city where some people have never seen a doctor.
Doctor Nigerian now, they are traveling to abroad. Because of the salary they are collect every month, it's not reach anywhere. That is why they are traveling to go abroad.
It's a brain drain that's worsening each year. The World Health Organization has stepped in, compiling a list of poor countries with healthcare shortages, from where the rest of the world should never actively recruit doctors. The British government incorporated that list into its own code. They call it the Red List, effectively making Nigeria a no-go area for British medical recruiters.
However, here in the city, we found hundreds of young doctors queuing for what's called a Professional and Linguistic Assessments Board test, or PLAB-1, a first step to practice in the UK. And here's the thing, the exam is set by the General Medical Council in London, and the people you see in blue bibs work for the British Council, which is sponsored by the Foreign Office and is overseeing the exam. It was made clear we weren't welcome.
We've just been thrown out of the car park of the examination hall, and it was the British Council who threw us out, and they said, it's just not good to have you here. And they said it's about the candidate's privacy. But I wonder if it's also to do with the fact that they know that Nigeria is on the red list and they just don't want to be associated with the brain drain.
3 hours later, the candidates emerge into the Nigerian sunshine.
Where do you want to go if you succeed?
I want to go to the UK.
UK. I want fulfillment in my craft. I want to get to, the NHS has a working system, and that's what I want.
In London, we described what we'd seen to the British Medical Association, the trade union for doctors in the UK.
Is the British government complicit, do you think, in active recruitment?
Certainly they will be aware if the British Council is enabling mass-scale taking of the PLAB exam. It would be, I think, misleading for the Department of Health and Social Care to say that they did not know about this. Indeed, they are trying to take some active steps with the Code of Practice to discourage it.
But they know this is a red list country, don't they?
Absolutely.
And yet this is overseen by the British Council, which is funded by the Foreign Office.
Absolutely. So there's an element of one hand giving in the Code of Practice and the other hand taking away.
The Department for Health and Social Care rejects that and says responsibility for arranging PLAB exams lies with the GMC, which is independent of government.
Remember Augustine, the doctor from the start of this report? Well, it was whilst he was studying for the second part of those PLAB exams here in the UK that he was approached by NES Healthcare, the company behind me, and later offered visa sponsorship and a potential job. It sounds like that's a breach of the government's Code of Practice on no active recruitment from red list countries. NES says it's not because the company's not a recruitment agency and the doctors it engages with have already committed themselves to working in the UK anyway. But a spokesman for the Department of Health and Social Care told us that the code does apply to NES and so it's in breach of it.
Augustine had signed a contract with NES that opted him out of the Working Time Directive.
Do you think that you were so tired that there was a potential that you weren't doing the best or weren't delivering the best care for the patients?
Yes, and that was my worry, because I knew that working tired puts the patients at risk and puts myself also at risk as well for litigation and other things. So I was really, really worried.
If he was too tired to work, his contract permitted deductions from his salary. NES says that's to cover the cost of a backup doctor.
I knew it was wrong. I knew everything was wrong. That's why I raised concern. It wasn't right.
Did it act as a disincentive when you knew you were going to lose money? If you were actually doing the right thing and getting a replacement to come in?
Yes.
Then you were being penalised for that?
Yes.
This is who NES doctors often come to for help. Dr. Jenny Vaughan from the Doctors Association. I asked her if these long hours could be excused in any way. At night, for instance, when doctors are only on call, not actually on the ward unless needed.
If you're on duty, and you're in a hospital room, you could be called at any time. That is a basic understanding of a doctor who's on duty. That's why no doctor in the NHS, on the NHS contracts, does more than 4 nights consecutively, because we know that it's frankly not safe.
She's particularly concerned that NES doctors are not allowed to leave their contracts without 3 months' notice or face more deductions from their salary.
This is a slave-type work with low pay and excess hours, the like of which we thought had been gone 30 years ago. It is not acceptable for patients safety reasons. It is not acceptable for doctors.
Back in Nigeria, more GMC exams are organised for the new year, and Britain will continue to recruit doctors here because it's cheaper than training them at home. It raises an uncomfortable question. How can we be serious about honouring the red list and thereby helping protect some of the poorest nations on earth when our own system can't function without shopping for doctors abroad?